passe. Super l'artiste. Super. Encore un but sensationnel. That's a brilliant bit of follow-up play by Mahe. Oh my goodness me, what a shot.
Sagosen setter det hen! Han setter den! De i semifinale igjen!
Quarterfinals of the Champions League, eh? It's a pretty good stage of the season. And what an absolute wild ride we saw in the men's EHF Champions League quarterfinals across all 4 games. It had drama, it had comebacks, it had disappointments, it had incredible handball, and we're going to talk about it now. Alex Kielce here, welcome to the Uninformed Handball Hour. I'm joined by Chris, who has been gallivanting the wonderful cities of Europe. Long gone are the days of multiple flights and 5-hour drives to Meshkov, Brest. You were in some nice cities this week.
And I'm sitting in one right now. I'm in Vienna right now before I head to Geur for more quarterfinal action in the Women's Champions League. Yeah, Montpellier, Paris, then 5 days of beach handball in Zagreb, and yesterday in Barcelona, where Brian and I got to enjoy a little bit of the city after the game as well. And we met an old teammate of ours in the Irish handball team, Colm Thiel, who's living there now. So a nice time to end, well, it's not over yet, but to end that part, the men's quarterfinal week and a bit. But honestly, I was counting down to the start of my commentary for Barca against PSG last night, watching in dismay and disbelief as Kiel were annihilating, not in any spectacular fashion, but still annihilating Montpellier in one of the strangest games. I don't know if we should start there or with the other German team that have snatched a spot in the Final Four, because I feel the 2 German teams going through are probably the most contentious, well, not contentious, but the biggest headlines and divides the most opinions.
For sure. They were the 2 big stories. Magdeburg, of course, getting past Kielce on penalties. Do you want to start on a positive news story or a slightly negative one?
In every game, there's 2 ways to look at it, right? Depending on which where your loyalties lie. I think we have to start with the most recent big news and the huge comeback of Kiel against Montpellier. Because, like it or loathe it, that is one for the ages. A 10-goal victory. With a quarter of the game left, they were leading the match 24-20. A lead they had basically had since late in the second half. So Montpellier holding them at arm's length. They had a 9-goal lead from the first leg, Montpellier. 4 down in the second. That's perfectly fine. But then a 7-1 run in the final 15 minutes with pure experience, grit, determination, sweat. Eric Johansson. And they do.
And Nicola Billick in there.
And a little bit of Billick in there. But I feel like the real inspiration for me came from Eric Johansson reaching to his previous amazing level. And some of his goals were just phenomenal. But it was a team performance, to be fair. And it was one based on pure grit and determination. They kind of admitted there was no tactical approach. It wasn't beautiful handball. It was brutal. And they managed it.
I figured out Kiel. Figured them out.
Here we go.
We've had this question for a long time. Can't figure them out. Why are they amazing one day and absolutely terrible the next? And it's very simple. And especially after watching a game like Kielce Magdeburg, where, you know, it's truly kind of the modern handball that we're watching. The one-on-ones, the protecting the ball at all costs, taking shots only when you really know you're getting fouled, so you're going to come back. It's that protection of the ball. Kiel are they are YOLOing it out there. 9-meter shots from all the boys. Let's get this to our big boys in the back. Eric Johansson, Nicola Billick, Harold Rankind. Get the ball. anywhere between 10 and 8 meters, go up there and shoot. And that 9-meter shooting just brings natural variance. It's, you have a day when it all goes in, just like that second leg against Montpellier, where, Johansson, what was it, 8? Let me get the exact stats up. 8 from 11. Wonderful. 73%. Nikola Bilic, 7 from 10. 70%. Reinkind, 6 from 9. All backcourt shots. They're barely breaking through and doing these shots where, it's kind of jumping at 7-8 meters, still getting contact, but not enough for a foul. It's riding the hit, quite the opposite of what Magdeburg do. And that kind of style, it just brings natural variance. You have days where it all goes in, other days when it doesn't, and it's not like, as you said, they have much of a plan B in terms of how we break it down, how we move it around. We're going to shoot, shooters shoot, and sometimes they beat Montpellier by 10 goals.
Yeah, it sounds a little bit like a basketball team only shooting threes, and sometimes they'll all come in, sometimes they won't. They won't bother with anything else.
It's like that, except for the fact that there's actually no advantage of taking a 9-meter shot in handball. There's no mathematical advantage. It's just, the blood, sweat, tears, grit, determination, how you're feeling on a day, how your shoulder's feeling, and the momentum it brings to the game. Because when, again, you saw that, Kiel came out, Reinkind scored 3 goals immediately, and yes, we're here, we can do it. In the first leg, again, actually, Johansson and Bilic had good games, but broader in the team, there's no one that could shoot, and it just slowed them down, bogged them down. It leads to fast breaks because those shots are also a little bit more difficult to judge for running back defenders. So, if Christiansen's going through, you kind of know that he's going to go there. You can start running back and stop that fast break if he scores or doesn't, or you come back for a foul. These guys are just shooting at random times, and that kind of leads to this Montpellier momentum that Montpellier had in the first leg where they were breaking through. So it's very simple, just 9-meter shooting. That's why Kiel are wild.
That accounts for the attack, though, in this game, and they basically scored as many goals as they did in the first leg. It worked out in the context of the game, but what was really shocking for me was the 21 goals that Montpellier scored. And they scored 20 of those in the first 44 minutes. And I think a lot of credit has to go to the defence and the goalkeeping, of course. Thomas Mrkva with 12 saves and 41%. And Peter Overby got a red card fairly early in the game for Kiel, which, I don't know, maybe in the end also adds to a little bit of the us against the world mentality, but with also relying on better players in defence. Montpellier, I was quite surprised with how uncomposed they were in that last quarter, given how well they had managed the second leg and particularly the first leg. That was what really surprised me in that last bit. They just couldn't get anything working. It was kind of sad to see.
Credit to Kiel defence and Mrkva, but I think it was more the Montpellier players not just misfiring completely. Their whole backcourt, breaking down. I told you the backcourt that Kiel had and their stats. For Montpellier, Brian Monta, 1 from 6, 17%. Diego Simone, 1 from 4. Stas Scuba, 1 from 3. And Marko Panic, 0 from 2. And with all of that...
And 3 penalty misses from 3.
They got away with it as well for a lot of the game. As you said, it was that moment on the 45th minute when Diego Simone stole the ball and went up and scored on the other side, and you're like, okay, Montpellier have this together. And those last 15 minutes were an absolute disaster. And I think for the first 45 minutes, I'll give Kiel their full credit. I think they did well to stop them, but it was purely Montpellier missing easy chances for the last 15 minutes. Monte had a breakthrough on the left side, completely saved, went up the other side, goal, and at the very end, Panic completely through on the right side, and he just panicked. A lot of these saves were not amazing saves by Merkva. He was just standing there. I'm not going to take it away from him, but this isn't an Andy Wolf get your leg up to the heavens to stop a top corner perfect shot. This is just the Montpellier players getting there and just panicking and throwing something. And together with Scuba, who had a horrific game, he kept dropping the ball. I don't know if it was nerves or just the pressure getting to him, but he had no control of the game like he did in the first leg. He kept fumbling it. There's turnovers, and he just drop it like a bar of soap all the time, and he'd pick it up and all momentum's gone. I think it was just the pressure that got to him, and it had to be.
This period of the season, particularly this season, we're talking a lot about kind of farewells for big names, and for Montpellier, none bigger than Patrice Canaille. We had Remy Debonnet on with us a couple of weeks ago, and he said about how important a figure he is to the club. It's a devastating way for his Champions League career to end, but the atmosphere in Kiel looked absolutely fantastic. It felt like a kind of throwback Kiel performance in a way, and they're into the Final Four. Who would have thought it? One of the biggest comeback in a long time, and yeah, I guess we just have to give it to them. I was kind of shocked by it all, but it's going to be a good Final Four with them in it, with the crowd they'll bring down, with the players at their disposal, with that fighting ability, and just seeing how Philip Yika deals with it all. Maybe he's understanding that he has very little control in the end. Maybe this will be a lesson and the new beginning for the team as he takes a hands-off approach to coaching.
Yeah, maybe. And just hopes his superstars. And again, that backcourt, it is fantastic. They have the players. And just the last part, the line players for Kiel were very good. But that is just, again, the advantage when you do have shots going in from 9 meters. The defense, it broke the defense. The amount of times that Montpellier had to step up on these big guys and left loads of space for the line players. So it's not, when those shots start going in, the momentum builds across the board. And I think the one adjustment that Kiel did make, and I presume that is Yiha, is that they shut down the wings completely. That's why, Marko Panic got that breakthrough shot at the very end with tons of space between the 1 and 2 defender, because the most important thing was that it's not Janis Len and Lucas Pellas, who got 7 goals each in the first leg, taking that shot. It's Marko Panic and Hugo Monte, and that worked.
Sure did. There was one German team bucking their spot at the HF Final Four. The other one, Magdeburg, tinged with a bit more controversy. And I think we'll start this chat on 59 minutes and 56 seconds of normal time, Alex. Just before we recorded, you look back at the final few minutes. I have my fairly set opinion on it. What's yours?
Okay. I will just say here, this was an incredible tie. So the 119 minutes that preceded that final minute were some of the best handball that we've seen. They're, two absolutely top teams at the top of their game delivering, and you could watch these teams play all day. And I talked about, we want more of these games.
Best of 3, best
Make
of 5.
Make it a multiple game series. Best of 3, best of 5. That could, imagine a 5-game series between these two teams. Like, it would just be, every game came down to the last second, and it would go down to the last second, but every game would come down to deciding a winner. But in this case, it was the referees that decided the winner. I know there's been a lot of discussion on this from different sides on that decision where, Danny Dushabayev kind of went through, passed the ball, it skipped Ternat and landed in the hands of Karolek to equalise in the game and win the tie for Kielce, and the referee blew the whistle early. And I think it's an honest mistake. That's all it is, because the ball was aimed at Ternat, and the referee thought that it missed. The ball was gone, and he blew the whistle.
Do you think it was the right call to call a free throw in the first place? But Danny Dushabayev gets the ball. He takes his 3 steps. He goes into contact. He takes a 4th step, bounces, and then passes it on. In my mind, 100% a free throw. That's normal. He took steps and he was, and he went into contact. And I fully agree with you. The ball skipped past the intended target. The referee saw that, and straight away, if there was nobody there and they were too slow blowing the whistle and time was ticking away, people would be angry as well. So they're trying to make these quick decisions in the final 5 seconds. So I totally understand that. But and in that sense, I think they made the right decision. But I totally understand the dismay and some really striking pictures of the Kielce players and and Talent Dushabayev falling to their knees at the end of it. You got a feel for them, but I see where it came from. I don't see any malicious intent there or corruption.
Yeah, and of course, Kielce filed an official complaint
which has been wiped out now.
Which has already been wiped out. Which, it's handball, these things. It's sport. Like, no official complaint has ever worked. I don't know why people bother. Like, across any sport, it never works. There was a lot of, the discussion on Twitter or X it got very technical. There was people pointing at the exact second of the ball, the whistle being blown. There was, Rasmus Boysen had a few points on, potential steps from Danny Dushabayev and the fact that Ternat went inside before Karolek received the ball. But I think all of that happens all the time. Like the extra half step, if that was called for a full game, Magdeburg wouldn't be in the game. Like,
yeah, exactly.
So these things happen. Should it be fixed? That's a question we've covered before. But it happens. I don't think it was that egregious. A player going inside, tussling for the ball is that's never enough to, especially to the side, out of the way of the goalkeeper and the shooter. It doesn't get called. So if you want to get technical, yes, there was things there, but in the heat of the moment of a second leg quarterfinal of the Champions League between two top teams, in the last 3 seconds, those things wouldn't be called and shouldn't be called. And it's a mistake is a mistake. And that's a pity. That's an absolute pity. But you can just understand what the thought process there was. Question is, is there a way to avoid mistakes like this? Would VAR have helped? No. Because, the moment passed. You can't give a penalty there for a mistake. That would be ridiculous. The one part that I think is something that could have been done about is that there was more time left on the clock. So that when the whistle went, there was 3 seconds left. And I think if you're calling it back to a foul, that was another 3 seconds before you. So you stop the clock then, not. And that would have given Kielce, about 6 or 7 seconds, which is enough time to score. A much, much greater opportunity than a standing shot from 7 meters, which is, a Hail Mary. And I was really annoyed by Magdeburg in that last minute, because they took it was an attack for about 45 seconds where they did not want to score at all.
That felt like the final 5 minutes, Alec. Without watching it back, watching it live at the time, when I think of that final 5 minutes, it was just one long Magdeburg attack. As I said, it was fantastic handball for the most part, but the final 5-10 minutes was not fantastic handball. That was bullshit. And in a way that you can't argue with. Like, that's what they do very well. That's how they managed the situation. They knew what they were doing. They pushed the rules as far as they could go, and they got away with it in the end. But it was not pretty at all.
I think that is something, they pushed the rules to the extreme, but it's something that the refs again could have clamped down on a little bit earlier. Because I referenced that last attack because, again, they played the rules. They did their pass. Christiansen and Smarsen took turns going into the defense without wanting to score. And I think in handball there is an obligation to actually try to score. And it was clear that for the first 4 times they did it, and 4 is a lot. That they didn't want to do it. And there was even, one of those attacks, Smarsen tried to pass to the line, and Benaviga gave out to him. He scolded him for doing that. He told him, no, just get the ball on the sideline. And I think you could have easily, after 2 of those attacks where there's no intention, you just say, hands up immediately. You haven't even tried to score. And yeah, again, that... I think referees in general have to get better at that, because that's the style that a lot of teams play, that one-on-one style now, and you can drag out a lot of time doing that. And I think there has to be, the ball has to leave your hand. If it doesn't leave your hand, like Christiansen went in twice and he held on to the ball.
Yep. We've seen referees give passive play calls because of a lack of intent. And I think at a certain point you can see whether the intent is there, as you said, or not to shoot. And I think that's a really good point.
And then it went to penalties.
And despite all of that, despite Kielce not getting their chance to win, they had a chance to win in penalties. In a penalty shootout where I've never seen 2 goalkeepers look so big, by the way, in Andy Wolf and Sergio Hernandez. What an overall performance from the 2 men.
Andy Wolf has a 44% save rate in penalties in the Champions League this season. And he stuck to that in the shootout as well. Kielce had the advantage and they had multiple chances. And Alex Dushabayev again.
Oh, man.
It's
Poor
tough.
Poor guy. They had their chance to win it. Alex Dushabayev had the chance to win it. And it's hard to put yourself in those shoes and think about what must have been going through his mind and everyone's mind at that situation. Penalty shootouts are cruel. It's interesting that they're now coming in straight after 60 minutes. It's expedited. There's none of the added tension of extra time if the scores are level, which I think is okay because the home team does get another 10 minutes advantage. But maybe that's for a reason because they're the higher seed. You can argue it either way. But yeah, Magdeburg come through another penalty shootout. Where do you see Kielce go from here?
The interesting thing is the rumours of Wolf to Magdeburg. And I don't know if you saw the comments from Wolf after the game. The direct quote is, especially for me, it felt like a home game. Magdeburg fans were great too. He hasn't rejected these rumours. No. He's talked about it, and I think that is going to be an indication of the club going forward? Not that they're going to collapse, but losing a star like Andy Wolf is going to... It changes things. Like, the club will have to reconsider its whole approach. You know, having Wolf in goal as their, you know, likely their highest paid player, and, you know, all of those factors as a mainstay. You know, it kind of changes the core of this team immediately. It almost breaks it apart. And that's a decision for Kielce to make. Like, being in Wolf's shoes, I think you get out of there. Like, the heartbreak. Like, I saw him after last year's Champions League heartbreak. He was, like, inconsolable. Like, sitting in the hallway in pure anguish. And I think there's only so many times that you can go through that before you just have to admit defeat. Like, well, it's tough.
For the Dushabayevs as well, it feels like some kind of shift may need to be done there. If somebody, I mean, I don't think talent is going anywhere. I think talent Dushabayev is kind of a Jurgen Klopp-like figure now. I don't think he would want to go anywhere else. If he's leaving the sport. But yeah, I mean, Alex is another one of those players. I mean, Alex Dushabayev has won the Champions League. It's not like he is missing something in that sense, but he is at the peak of his career now. And the two of them, Andy Wolf and Alex Dushabayev, it feels like there's only so much they can do. Things are shifting in Poland as well. I was speaking to a Polish delegate at the beach handball in Zagreb as well, saying there's a change in the government approach to funding sports. There'll be a lot less money in it now. That coupled with the fact that there's an exception to this if you have a rich sponsor, which Płock have in Orlen, and we've seen the rumours about Orlen Wisla Płock potentially bringing in some really big names in the near future. So that whole dynamic could be shifting really quickly. Big decisions to make for some of these players.
Yeah. I think they'll need to sit on it. They'll figure it out. Yeah. You don't have Britta Servas in there wheeling and dealing. It's going to be a more measured approach. I think, you know, that they'll stay course in general, but it's how they deal with someone like Wolf leaving and how do they react to that could shape their future.
Let's talk about Aalborg and Veszprem. Another match tinged with, you know, absolute delight on one side, but more agony, and there's a real battle here for which team in the Champions League quarterfinals is being dealt with the most agony. Veszprem fall again. It probably feels like a little bit more of a like it's not as a dramatic a loss losing this one to Aalborg, and I want to start more on the positive side for Aalborg here, because they really were brilliant, and I think in the two legs overall they were
the better team.
They were a better team over the 120 minutes. I think Veszprem probably knew already at the end of that first leg that they got away with it, winning by 1, and that it was going to be really tough for them. But what has really stood out for me is the backcourt of Aalborg and how they have just blossomed. These 3 young men, and Thomas Arnoldsson, Mads Hoxer, and Alex Flach, who have been phenomenal. We talked about them a few weeks ago, and they've stepped up a whole other level.
Yeah, I think Thomas Arnoldsson is the player that has just really come out of nowhere. And not to say nowhere, because he was a young star. He had a great season the year before with Skanderborg, and made the move to Aalborg in what felt like was probably a more of a future move for the club to, you know, set him up. And then he's been given the reins and has taken them and driven Aalborg into the Final Four. He was so good across both legs. And Mads Hoxer as well, who was the game winner in that second leg, just 23 years old, Arnoldsson 22. Hoxer has been around for a while, more comfortable, but really, you know, the confidence showed through across the two legs, where he has this template of a finisher, like a Magnus Ruud type, but I think he's capable of more and has decided or has been pushed into a position where, yes, you can take over a game. And he's accepted that and flourished in that capacity.
I'm very impressed with how comfortable he is right in the middle of the court. I said he really does take over. He's happy to come in on the empty switch and just float around there. He's not just a finisher, like you said. And one thing about Thomas Arnoldson, he's 22, right? This was just his 6th and 7th Champions League games. So as I said, he's really, it is pretty much coming out of nowhere. His highest score as well, it was 5 against Kielce at home, and scored 4 and 5 over the 2 legs here against Veszprem. So he has really peaked at a great time of the season for this team. They all have.
Thomas Arnoldson actually took a mental health break at the start of the season. So he missed, that's why there's only 6 or 7 games in the Champions League, because he missed probably the first third of the season just through personal reasons to try to recover. And obviously that has worked. He's come in all guns blazing. But what are your thoughts on Mikkel Hansen playing 5 to 10 minutes a game? What's going on with this? It happened for PSG last year, or like the previous couple of years, even though he's dominating at international level. And like he played the last 2 Danish league games and scored 6 goals in both, being a more central figure. But in the Champions League, is it his choice? I don't know.
I have a feeling it's particularly for these quarterfinals, it was a question of the playing style. And the first half of that game really spelled it out for me, because there were periods where you were seeing 4 or 5 goals being scored in a minute. Like it was Aalborg were saying, you can do what you want, but we're going to come at you like 100%. And they need to, we talk a lot about the importance of players who are covering for others in defense. And there are a few of those in the Aalborg team, particularly the centre block. At least one of them has to come off every time. And so they're probably limiting, I think, the substitutes there. I think it's probably a pure clash of styles that they decided to go with the players they did. And it worked an absolute treat. I mean, once they ran and ran and ran, and not necessarily, I think, to try and overrun Veszprem, but to put them in a position where they could then strike. And they played hard for about 10 minutes. It was Veszprem were building up a little bit of a lead, and then they went on a 6-1 run, Aalborg, to really turn the game around. And I think that was based a little bit on the pace they played at the match in. So I think Hansen just doesn't necessarily fit into that. He comes in and he hustles for 5 or 10 minutes where he can, and there may be a game, for example, I don't know, against Kiel in a semi-final of the Champions League, where he is more suited to that kind of match in comparison to either Vlach or Arnoldson, and he plays more. So yeah, I reckon I would love to get Stefan Madsen on the podcast to talk about this, and I think that's maybe something we can target without making any grand promises. But I have a feeling it has to do with that, and also trusting in his young guns. I think they've got a tough schedule in Denmark, as you mentioned. They've before a couple of weeks ago, really hard playoff series, and just using all the bodies they can. And I like the team. I like the mixture of the composition they've got now. It's hard not to like Seaman Held, the player he's become, and Mulgaard in defense. The old boys now, the Norwegians on the wings, and then these 3 amazing young players. And how could we not mention Nicholas Landin?
No, Landin, that's true.
That was the performance, the kind of performance he was signed for.
Yeah, for sure. There was one big save at the end of that second half, at the very end, where it just sealed the game for Aalborg. Moving on to Veszprem, though. A couple of things. So Remedy was sick before the game, so that was his flu game. Didn't go quite as successful as Michael Jordan. What happens now for Veszprem? I don't know if we talked about you talked about in the last morning club about, the lack of Illich's tactical leadership. That was clear. I think it was just Remily trying to do things for that second half unsuccessfully. He also kind of lost his head, and it wasn't working. Like, well, what happens now?
It's only rumours right now, but so we don't want to go into too many details about it, but there are things spreading about the management of the club. So not strictly about Momir Ilic as the coach, but the director, Laszlo Nagy, the president of the club and club manager, all seemingly discussing resignations. I guess some news will come out of that next week, but that sounds like a very Vesprem thing to happen after a disappointment like this, sadly enough. And when something like this happens, the first question on my mind is like, okay, whose head is gonna roll in this situation? So players are heading out. Kantamahe, Yahya Omar, Andreas Nielsen all confirmed to be leaving this summer, and it feels like kind of history repeating itself. We talked about how good this squad was and how, three of them in the backcourt had to have a good game. They can't possibly all like fall apart, but take one part of that out, like Remily not being at top fitness, and then you're looking at the team and you're like, do I really trust Casado and Kosorotov over the opposition centre and left back? I feel so sad for Vesprem fans.
It's just a mess of a club. It's such a mess of a club.
I think we both have been big supporters of this team this season. They looked great from the off. I thought they were, at different points of this season, the best club in this season's Champions League. And yet here we are again, being dumped out early. They're not going to Cologne. It's really hard to piece together.
This is the first season in a couple of years where the pressure was back on, because that was the last change that happened when Momir Ilic came in. They had a couple of seasons where the whole messaging was, we're revamping, we're not aiming for the Champions League, we're getting the squad together, we're trying to make it a happy place. And this year, the additions they had, a lot of signings came in this year that were signed a little while ago, like the likes of Hugo Desca, Ludovic Fabregas, Casado, all of these players, Kosorotov, came in the long-term picture, and this was when they were supposed to take off. And then they had the bonus of Remily arriving halfway through last season. Maybe the management is the right place to target here, because I don't think there was this in between of like, oh, okay, are they really going for it? Are they really good? Like, what's our goal here? We've already had a couple of years. The transition years went pretty okay. We're back up. What's our 3-year plan? Is there going to, our head's going to roll if we don't win this season? That was never clear, and it looks like they overperformed, then underperformed, and we're back to chaos again. Oh, God damn it. I feel sorry for the veteran fans.
Yeah, I do. And there was an added kind of complication to all of this in the build-up with Arpad Sterbik, the goalkeeper coach, not travelling with the team because he suffered a heart attack, it seemed. And I think the news is that he's okay, but those things always, have some kind of part to play as well. We spoke about Kielce and the added chaos that will be brought in with the strengthening of their arch rivals in Płock. We've spoken about the fact that Szeged are going to have a pretty shit-hot team as well next season. And yeah, things are just going to be a little bit more tricky for the team, and add pressure onto them for next season as they watch on from afar. It's incredible that these quarterfinals have seen the teams knocked out that we've seen knocked out, because you honestly, at one point or another, in the last month or two, could have seen all of these teams qualify for the Final Four. PSG, if they'd come up against anyone else, perhaps, but 7 of those 8 teams had real chances of being in the Final Four, and it's just mad that 2 of them missing out are Kielce and Vesprem.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen every time. Kielce have made the final a couple of years in a row. That's there's good teams around, and for PSG, I think if Prandy wasn't injured, it would be a much closer tie. We saw.
God, he was good. He was good in the second leg.
Yeah, fuck the Magdeburg backcourt. Magnussen, Christiansen, they can go to hell. I want a big dude running as fast as he can, jumping as high as he can, and lamping a ball into the top corner. That's fun.
I mean, that's, I think if you figured out Kiel, now you know who their perfect signing would be next. Elohim Prandy, if they could get him. Like, holy moly.
The key about Prandy is that, about the fact that, you have Luke Steins and Tunninson beside him. So you need that shooter, and he's set up in the right way, and it's all pointed. I think if he goes to Kiel, if he is allowed to do whatever he wants, it could be like 20 shots. He'll be running up. Everyone would hate him. Everyone would love him. It would be exciting, but it'd be dangerous.
Fun game yesterday, Barca PSG. There was a party atmosphere in there, good crowd at the Palo Blaugrana. Everyone knew they were qualifying. There was no hope of a comeback from PSG. PSG knew that as well. They kind of enjoyed the affair. Both teams went at it really hard. They were really fighting for the victory on the day, which I think was good to see. And Nikola Karabatic, his Champions League career comes to an end. Another one who will end this season. I think he can have very little problems with it. There will be a little bit of like what if, based on what you said. If Prandy didn't limp off in the second minute or whatever in the first leg, PSG did a fantastic job for 35-40 minutes in the first leg without him before they were torn apart and fell apart a little bit. But this Barca team is a fun team to watch, even though they have no playmaker. And even when they let the playmakers come in, Paul Valera, it's really sad news. He's torn his ACL. Came in and did really well for a few minutes, and then he'll have a surgery. They got Richardson in there as the next Remeli.
Chikusa is...
Chikusha, he's
really
been given more trust.
Given more trust and plugs that gap nicely, actually, when it's needed. But, they have Dicamem, who was absolutely phenomenal. Over the two legs, Dicamem was absolute powerhouse. Unbelievable to see.
Will he deliver?
Final
Four, Alex?
That's the question. Question.
A question for another day, perhaps. Anything else we want to touch on?
There's a lot more things going on in the handball world.
Yes.
Hamburg have collapsed again, which really annoys me. There's a lot of transfer rumours and transfers that have happened as well.
What is the insight here into Hamburg? They didn't get the license for the Bundesliga for next season. Did you see any particular reasons why?
I think it's just general financial mismanagement again. They did it once, went away, renamed the club, built it up from the third division, and here we are again.
Today, on the 3rd of May, the Independent Licensing Commission of the Bundesliga announced that Hamburg need proof of economic performance required to get a license. So, I don't know if that means that they definitely are. They do have an option to appeal this decision, but it's sad because it seemed like, on the surface that they had been doing things right this time around. But I think maybe that's a topic for a morning club. We can get an expert to come in and tell us all about what happened there.
I think we'll. So there's a lot going on. And to follow all of that, you might want to think about joining our Patreon. Patreon.com/handball hour to get our extra weekly content, the Morning Club podcasts, and access to the Discord, which was in good form throughout the quarterfinals. Good conversations and drama all unfolding together in that community. It's just $3 a month to sign up. Lots of big games happening. Olympics coming up, we will cover that as well. So do join us on Patreon, where we'll discuss everything else that's going on.
We'll wrap it up there for today. From Alex and myself, it's goodbye.